Welcome to today's flight lesson. Today, you will get an inside look as real-world flight instructor Mike remotely coaches a brand new simmer, Ryan, on the basic principles of takeoff and climb out in a Cessna 172. Okay, let's go fly.
So are you okay with that? We'll just kind of jump to the runway and then we can practice some takeoff. So you've seen the startup and then we won't get to do the before takeoff checks, but we'll just jump right into the takeoff.
Sure, that's fine.
So let's plan to use runway 29er at Hanscom. So to position yourself on runway 29er, you can go to the flight configuration menu. And yep, change location. Customize in the upper right. And yeah, you can just click on runway 29. You can actually click on any point on the map there. Perfect, and confirm. All right, how have your takeoffs been so far? Have you found yourself struggling to just keep the airplane on the center line, or has it been pretty smooth so far for you?
Other than the rudder being ultra sensitive,
Yeah.
which I think we've adjusted, after that I can get the plane to take off. But yeah, I was having trouble keeping it on the center line just because the rudder was very sensitive, but I think we're okay now. So
All right, cool.
Let's try with the new rudder sensitivity and see what happens, yeah?
All right, sounds good. Let's give it a try. So let's just keep it really simple to start with. I don't want to overwhelm you. Just do a basic takeoff. The rotation speed in this airplane, so where we lift the nose to take off, is going to be 55 knots. Then after you rotate, let's try to aim for a speed of about 80 knots. So you don't have to get there all at once, but just accelerate to about 80 as our normal climb speed.
All right.
And then we'll fine tune from there. So whenever you're ready, we'll give it a go.
All right, so disengaging the parking brake. And giving myself a little bit of... Oh, that's a lot less sensitive already. I feel...
That's it? Good. Okay.
Yeah. I feel a lot better with the sensitivity there now.
Excellent.
I'm just playing with it a little bit to make sure I understand how sensitive it is.
Okay.
See what I mean? With that sensitivity on this. I'll get used to it.
So better, but still not quite there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can play with the curves a bit. Okay. Okay, let's pause the sim for a second.
What is the pause button on this sim?
So letter P. Letter P.
Thank you.
Okay, so nicely done. Good rotation and everything, and then let's talk a little bit about the initial climb out and the speed control. So the way that you adjust your speed in a climb in particular, and you can think of this as your way of adjusting speed in general, really, is by using the elevator. So think of the elevator as your speed control, which might be a little weird, because usually when you drive a car, right, you think of the throttle as your speed control, but really, if we're climbing, our throttle is fixed. We're at full power. So the only variable we have left that we can adjust is going to be our pitch attitude. So let's say when we were in that initial climb out, our speed was dropping down, fairly low, somewhere down here, or maybe lower. If you see that, then we just want to push forward on the yoke until the airplane speeds up. So let's go ahead and try that for a few moments, just using the pitch attitude to control the speed.
Okay, that makes sense. And you said I'm trying to keep it at 80 knots, right?
Yeah, about 80 knots, yep.
Okay.
Okay, so I see you're working towards it. Let me give you some tips to make it go smoother. So pause the sim again, let it repeat. Okay, first thing I'd like to adjust a little bit is the viewpoint to make it a little bit more like what you'll see in the real airplane. So if you go ahead and push the up arrow on your keyboard, maybe 1 or 2 clicks, we want to see a little bit of the cowling, the white part of the the engine cowling there. So that gives you a little better reference when we're looking at the nose versus the horizon. So my guess is that probably your focus has been quite a bit inside at the flight instruments.
Yeah.
If I had to imagine, which, if when we're doing instrument flying, that's great. But for starting off, our focus is really primarily outside. So what I'm going to do is block off all of this. So really down to just one indication right now. All right. And all I want you to do is focus on where is the nose relative to the horizon. So what I mean by that is, okay, we can think of it as like a distance. Or we could think of it, depending on how high we're pitched up, as like an intersection point. So go ahead and unpause your sim, and then we'll talk more as it's going. Oh, I didn't mean to clear all of that. Yeah, so just focus on keeping that picture nice and steady. It's like right now we see, okay, we're fast, so we want to raise the nose a bit to slow down, right? Don't just pull back arbitrarily, just like, a little bit. Right there. Yep. You see, you're pulling back a bit too abruptly. Just pick a spot like this spot right here where the panel intersects the horizon, and then hold it there. Don't let it keep moving. So just try to put that dot right there on the horizon line. Line those two up. Okay. And then we just want to keep the airplane from turning also. One less variable for us. So yeah, just roll the wings level. There you go. And now we can get a sense of, okay, is that dot, which I have erased now, by the way, is it working or not? And I think that would have led us to be too slow. So let's try this. Try putting the cowling, like the tip of the cowling, right on the horizon line. Actually, don't do that yet, because it looks like whatever you're doing right now is working perfectly for 80 knots. So I think this is the answer right here. If you hold that dot on the horizon, then look, you don't need any other instruments. You just, your hands off right now, beautiful. This is what a good pilot can do. Just take the hands off, nice and relaxed. You can be thinking about other things other than struggling with the airplane. You can be thinking about, hey, what would I do if my engine quit? Talking to ATC is other stuff you'll have to be doing at this point. So this is perfect, exactly what we're looking for. Let's go ahead and try to adjust a little bit. Let's say we want to fly a little slower speed. Let's try to go to a 70 knot climb now. So before we even start making control inputs, let's just make a little guess. Like where would the horizon need to intersect the panel? Like right now we're intersecting here. Well, maybe for 70 knots, I don't know for sure, but maybe somewhere over here is what we tried. So why don't you see how that works? So just pull back a little bit until the horizon touches that second dot, still keeping the wings level. And just hold it there nice and steady.
The wings pull a little to the left, by the way. You were right.
Yeah. there is a left turning tendency for sure. Okay, what do you think? How is this working so far?
Want to go a little higher?
Probably a little higher.
Yep.
Yeah, so maybe like right here, let's say. And I can see right now, you're kind of holding the yoke with both hands, which is, it's not the end of the world, but try to fly with just a really light touch with one hand. On the right hand, you can put that on your throttle, let's say, or maybe just have it free and relaxed. But yeah, nice and relaxed, because the more pressures you're holding on the yoke, the harder it is to fly smoothly and precisely. Might seem counterintuitive, but it really does work that way. So yeah, just keep it on that dot there. And what are you feeling right now? Are you feeling like you have to hold any pressure in order to keep the...
I feel like I'm having to keep the plane from naturally doing this a little bit.
Yeah, definitely the turning. So there's that. In terms of the pitch attitude, I feel like the nose is tending to go down a little bit. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah. Should we trim it?
Okay. Yeah, exactly. It's just a little smidge of nose up trim is all you need.
All right.
Let's see here. Not sure if that was the right direction or not. So when you do the nose up trim, make sure you're moving your wheel kind of downwards. It's a lot of stuff to juggle at once with the directional control and the speed, but just focusing on one thing at a time is usually best. So you're doing fine.
Excellent. I'm enjoying this so far. It's been really good so far.
Good. How about we go ahead and restart this scenario? We'll do one more takeoff and then probably call it a day from there. Just focusing on using that same technique with what we call a sight picture, the panel of the airplane versus the horizon, and go from there. So yeah, if you go to flight configuration, and then if you just put the runway back as the location, that'll be a way to reset it. So yeah, change location, and then starting on runway 29 already, and then start new flight. Okay. So if you go ahead and unpause, get everything back to normal state. Cool. So for our next takeoff, we'll just work on fine-tuning things a bit. Let's add in the heading control aspect also. One tool you can use to help yourself maintain the heading is the heading bug, which you can't see right now, but if you tilt your viewpoint down a little bit, you'll see it right below on the bottom of the heading indicator. So it's this guy right here. This is the heading bug, so we can adjust that so that we can mark off a particular reference. So right now, let's mark it off for the runway heading. So 290. Exactly. Yep, that's the knob. You can go ahead and rotate that.
Wait.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
the top.
exactly. 229. Yep. So you got to multiply times 10.
Yep.
And that's the number exactly.
There we go.
Perfect. Very good. So we'll once we take off, just keep the wings level and try to make corrections so that we maintain this heading 290. One other element that we can start thinking about too is the coordination aspect. This is where the rudders come into play. So have you heard of the term coordinated flight before, or is that new?
That's new.
Okay, so the idea of coordinated flight means that the airplane is pointed in the same direction that it's flying. So if you picture, like, this would be coordinated, and then if the airplane were angled off to the side and still going in this direction, that would be uncoordinated. The way to know as a pilot, especially in the simulator when we can't feel what the airplane is doing, whether you're coordinated versus uncoordinated, is this instrument right here. So you'll need to tilt your head down just a little bit, or actually you can move it down or tilt it, whatever. There you go. So this ball right here is what's going to tell us if we're coordinated or not. In the real airplane, you can really feel it too. You'll feel if you're uncoordinated, you get pushed off to the side of the airplane, almost like when you're driving a car, you feel that. In an airplane, you don't want to feel that sort of motion. So we want this ball to be in the center of this instrument if we're coordinated. In the case where the airplane becomes uncoordinated, the ball might come off to the side. And then what do we do to fix that? All you have to remember is step on the ball. Okay, so step on the ball means if the ball displaces off to the right, then you use your right foot to get the ball back to the center. So ball left, you push on the left foot, left rudder pedal I mean, and that'll bring the ball back to the center. So it'll be easier to see it once we're going, but that's the basic principle. So any questions on the basic idea of coordinated flight, and then we'll practice that during the climb up. Yeah, I can't hear you. Just want to make sure I still have your audio.
Yep, I said, so what you're saying...
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I hear you now.
As the ball's rolling, if the ball starts rolling to the right, I want to kind of give it a little bit of right rudder, and then vice versa, yeah?
Exactly right.
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, during the takeoff, by the way, you're just looking outside visually. You're not looking at the ball. So that's really, once we get in the air, we can start looking at that. So just to simplify things visually, I'm going to get rid of all of this stuff here for now, just let you see the airspeed, and then you can rotate at 55, and then I'll clear off some of these things so you can see the ball during the climb up. All right, so whenever you're ready, we'll go ahead and take off.
All right. So brakes disengaged. You saw that disengagement immediately, and I'm going to start giving it some throttle.
Okay. And we don't want to take too long on the throttle, just over a few second period from idle to full.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I'm going to adjust the throttle sensitivity more.
Okay.
Before the next flight we have. Yeah. I'll adjust that. I will.
And 55. There we go. Rotate. And remember where that nose was relative to the horizon. Don't let it keep coming up. So remember where it was? It was right about here, I'd say, on the panel for an 80 knot climb, something like that.
Oh, yes,
Just
I remember.
Hold it there, and yeah, that's all you need. Okay, so let's start to get some more information here. So we see that ball. Right now it's pretty much center, but a little bit off to the right. So why don't you push the right rudder pedal a little bit, see if you can bring that ball back to the center. A little bit more, a little more push on the, a little pressure on the right rudder pedal.
Oh.
Yeah, it's easy to overdo it, and we might want to play with those curves a bit more too, but you get the idea. So the rudder is affecting that ball. Heading control is looking good. You brought that back to 290. Speed control, excellent. So just hold this here for a little bit. Just keep it nice and stable. Remember, primary attention is outside, looking at this point here, keeping it steady.
Yep.
Using your trim so that you can just kind of take the pressure off the yoke and you're flying nice and relaxed.
Yeah, I brought nose down just a little bit. I'm going to bring nose back up just a tiny little bit on the trim.
Okay.
So that I've got smooth, no up or down movement on the nose, and I'm able to hold at 80 knots.
Very good. Okay, see a little bit of a turn there, so go ahead and, yeah, exactly, wings level. And we want to come back to the heading we were targeting, 290, so make a turn to the right. Occasionally your eyes need to come down to this ball here and see, okay, do I need any rudder pressure? And right now you do need a little bit, not much, just a little tap or a little pressure to the right. Very good. Excellent. So see, when you're doing this right, it's very boring. Nothing's really happening. Everything looks like it's just steady and smooth. That's what we're looking for. Okay, so we see that turn to the left again, so right aileron. And nose kind of coming up a bit. Very good, good correction.
I'm seeing myself drifting again pretty badly on my heading.
Back to the right. Yeah, just a little pressure to the right.
Oh. Sorry, I'll adjust that curve before the next lesson for sure.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, so now I'm losing speed pretty badly. I don't know what I've done differently. I gotta adjust my elevators.
Good. Yep. Pitch is what controls your airspeed.
All right.
So very good. Just make sure you're nice and relaxed. Just one hand on the yoke. It feels like you're kind of making. I can't see it this time, but it feels like you're making some big pressures. Just relax. So we want to put the nose back down. Remember that sight picture. Where does the horizon intersect the panel? Put it there, and you'll get a predictable result, predictable speed and climb, and all that. Okay, so let's pause the sim here for a sec. Very good. So good progress. You've got something you can practice. Just keep doing those takeoffs and focus on these really three elements. You've got the speed control, coordinated flight, and then maintaining the heading. So that'll be a good exercise you can do, different airports, different conditions, and get really confident with that aspect. We'll end the session on one final topic, which is leveling off at a particular altitude. So let's say we want to level off at a cruise altitude of 3,500 feet. So think of it like a three-step process to do this. We're going to first pitch down. So we'll call it pitch, power, and trim are the three steps. So first step is pitch down. We start to pitch down not when we hit 3,500, because if we do it then, it's going to be too late, right? Because we'll overshoot. We need to do it a bit before we get there. So in a 172 at this climb rate, a rough estimate would be about 50 feet prior. So right about here on the altimeter setting is when you can start to pitch down for level flight. How much do you pitch down? Well, that's going to take some practice. You'll learn that sight picture the more you do it, but basically you're going to want to be bringing the cowling, to certainly the horizon line and probably a bit below that. So, but you'll see it as we do it and adjust from there. Okay, and then what are you checking for at this point? You want to keep the vertical speed indicator on 0, because if you keep the vertical speed on 0, then your altitude won't change at all. So you're going to adjust your pitch up and down so that the vertical speed stays on 0. That makes sense? Sorry, I think I missed your audio there again.
I said so. At that point, once you get the vertical speed to 0
Yep.
with the pitch, then you're bringing the power down by like 10%. I'm assuming.
Yeah. So the next step is the power. You're right. I wouldn't do it quite when the vertical speed reaches 0, because we want to accelerate also before we adjust the power, ideally. So once we reach a speed of about 95 or 100, say close to cruise speed, then we can bring the power back at that point. So it'll take a little while longer, but it works out better for a more efficient trimming process. So yeah, when we bring the power back, we can do that referencing the RPM gauge here, which you can't really see right now. If you just tilt the head angle down just a little bit, you'll be able to see enough of that to be able to target a particular RPM. Yeah, like even just to see the top half of it would be fine. So you'll want to pitch your head back up just a smidge, and that way we can still see the outside visual primarily. Good. Okay, so yeah, 2100 RPM is, we can use that today, but really it just depends on how fast you want to go, how much fuel you want to burn. So we'll target this RPM, and then finally trim. Well, that's kind of what you just have been doing. For the airspeed control during the climb, you've been using your trim so that you can take your hands off.
Yeah.
Same principle here, except the objective is a little bit different. So instead of focusing on airspeed, now you're focusing on vertical speed to keep that on 0. So you use your trim just to keep the needle on 0. Of course, as you're doing this, you need to be aware of your altimeter too, because if you've climbed up during this process, which is a common thing when you're learning, you'll need to kind of pitch back down to recapture your altitude. So but for now, let's focus primarily on the vertical speed.
Okay.
All right, so I'll walk you through that for this first one here, and then we'll give you one shot to practice. So you can go ahead and unpause the sim, and we'll let the climb continue until we're a little bit closer to 3,500, about 50 feet prior.
And since I was so close as far as angle here, pitch angle, I kind of am trimming myself up just a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, we're actually at our 3,500 now, so we want to start that level off. So you can go ahead and bring the nose down to level flight.
All right.
We're doing the pitch, and then it'll be power trim once we're ready. Not quite yet for the power, but just keep pitching down, because remember, our goal is to get this vertical speed to stay on 0. So yep, forward pressure on the elevator. Yep, keep pushing forward. Yep, push forward more. Like you want this cowling to be probably on the horizon line or below, so we still have a little ways to go. Yep, keep going even lower, because the vertical speed here is still showing a climb. Yep, even lower. It's going to take some pressure. Don't worry about that. It's okay.
You can tell I'm trying not to overcompensate.
yeah, exactly. That's all right. Yep, keep pushing, and then you have to be looking out here, and don't let the nose pop up like you just did, because otherwise you'll keep climbing. So yep, keep pushing down, because we still have a climb going. Okay, so I know you're working there on the yoke, but it's going to get better in a second. Bring the power back now to 2100 RPM. Still looking outside though, primarily, keeping that nose down, because otherwise you're going to climb. There you go. Okay, power coming back. So bring your throttle back. Reduce the throttle more. I'm not seeing any movement on the RPM yet.
I know why. It's my fault.
Are you on the?
I'm hitting the wrong
knob.
Yeah.
That'll do. Yep, you can keep bringing it back a little more. Okay, very good. Now trim. I think we both know what you need to do with the trim right now. I just haven't let you do it quite yet. So go ahead and use your trim. I see you holding a whole bunch of nose down elevator there, so nose down trim to compensate.
Nose down trim. Sorry.
As you do that though, yeah.
I went the wrong way. I went the wrong way. Yeah.
But even regardless of what you're doing with the trim, you still have to hold the nose where you want it. Don't just let the nose come up as you're trimming.
Okay.
You're still flying the plane. You're just using the trim to relieve some of the control pressure, but during the trimming process, you still have to be looking outside, keeping the nose at the same distance that was keeping the vertical speed on 0. Yep, more trim, more aggressive. You still have a ways to go. I see you're holding a lot of forward pressure still. And remember, as you trim, still keep the nose down. Yep, more trim, more aggressive. Yeah, you're getting close. A little bit more, I'd say. Holding that nose down. Let's see if we can target 4,500, so the hundreds needle right there. Alright, how's this feeling?
My hands are in the air.
Excellent. That's what I like to see. Very good. So this is what we're looking for. And then, of course, things are going to happen. It's not going to stay perfect forever, so you see a little bit of a climb going there, right? Vertical speed going up. So if that's the case, just push the nose down a little bit until it levels off. If you want to come back to your altitude, well, we have to get a little descent going. So push the nose down until we establish a small descent. And then once we get back to 4,500 in this case, we can bring the nose back up. So just tiny little adjustments at this point is all you need. Outside, so you let the nose come up from that picture, that distance between the nose and the horizon. So just keep it there, keep it steady. Want to make this look as boring as possible. Nothing changing. That's the goal. Okay, nicely done. Let's go ahead and pause the sim here. What do you think?
I'm getting like more of a sense for the sensitivity of it as I go, for sure.
Yeah. I think what happened was I think you mentioned it too. I wasn't quite sure what happened, but you said you had trimmed at one point during the climb for a bunch of nose up trim, I think. And then I'm not sure if we needed all that trim, but anyway, you had to counteract all that once we leveled off.
Yeah.
So it just ended up being a lot of trim to take out. But we're there now, so now you have an idea of the rates. Like, when it's that much forward pressure you're holding, you have to be a little bit quicker and more aggressive on putting the trim nose down to relieve the pressure. Otherwise, you'll get there eventually. It'll just take a while. So that's all just practice. You'll get a hang of it, no problem.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I think I over trimmed at one point, and that's probably why I was having problems.
No problem.
And then I panicked after I was grabbing the wrong switch. So what I'm going to do, and this is going to be smart, now I'm realizing that I don't need these switches nearby. So the nice thing about the honeycomb is you can actually pull the knobs right off, and I'm going to pull them off so that I don't accidentally do that again.
That was probably like the mixture, like a blue one or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just pull those off. One less thing to worry about. So I agree.
Yep.
Cool. Well, I think that's a good amount for today we covered. You'll have a fair bit to practice just on the technique-wise, and of course you can keep progressing with doing some turns and descents and stuff. But hopefully this gives you a basis of like what are the things when you're in the real airplane that you're actually using for references. I know it's not as easy to. I actually don't know exactly how you would do it to cover up certain instruments and stuff yourself, but I mean, if you just zoom in on the panel so you don't see all the clutter, that could maybe be something to consider as you're practicing, right? Just zoom in so you're only really focusing on like this segment here, and you're not seeing all this other stuff, which might just distract you from the basics.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Something like that. So.
Something more akin to this where there's just a few things.
Exactly. Yeah, and maybe you see just a little bit of the vertical speed indicator so you can still maintain the altitude, but really the main thing is focusing on outside references and the relationship between the nose and the horizon.
Okay, that makes sense. Also, I'm sure you noticed I lowered that rudder sensitivity a little bit more as well. I'm going to practice that a little bit as well to make sure that I got that more dialed in for the next lesson. And then I'm assuming I want to continue practicing my takeoff, climbing to 4,500 while still maintaining a heading of 2.9er, and then being able to level off and be able to kind of hands off on that and keep it at the right heading as close to possible.
Yeah, that would be a perfect kind of like homework assignment. Just keep running that profile until you're like you can do like the back of your hand. And even if you can do it without looking at all these instruments, just keeping visually the wings level, and then you can check yourself after, be like, okay, did I actually hold my heading? There's an instant replay mode in X-Plane. Not sure if you played with it. It's Alt-R. So if you do Alt-R, I'll just quickly show you here, and then you'll see a little, let's see, maybe that's another assignment on your computer. I'll show you how to get it up here. So if you go to, I think it's flight or maybe view, let's see.
Yep. Flight. Let me Alt-R again so I get that other thing off the screen.
Okay.
So I don't distract you or myself with it. Okay.
Then toggle replay mode. And then you can just slide this back and however much you want, and then you can like self-evaluate yourself, when you're doing the solo practice without someone like myself here, and see, oh, here's what I could have done better, and just really critique yourself and learn from your own flying.
That's beautiful. I like that.
And yeah, like you can give yourself little challenges, like I said, where maybe you take off and you only allow yourself to see maybe this portion of the panel, and you fly and you see, okay, I'm going to replay, and then you can change the view during the replay, and maybe you zoom out just to here during the replay, and you can see the heading indicator now and see, well, did I actually hold my heading or no? And then keep doing that until you can actually fly it without reference to the heading indicator at all.
I like it. That's good.
Awesome.
That does it for today's flight. And if you want to get one-on-one remote coaching with real pilots like Mike, check out flightsimcoach.com and schedule a free consultation with one of our remote coaches. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, please click the like button and subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching.